Industrial espionage is back and it's poking into the Ruhr. Turkish hacktivists use a sledgehammer to install backdoors. The Floki Bot Trojan is a cheap and evasive addition to the Zeus family. Dridex is back. GPS gets a cybersecurity upgrade. Too many people are still using Windows XP. And NSA is said to be struggling to compete with the private sector for cyber talent. Time for a message from our sponsor, NetSparker. Are you still scanning with labor-intensive tools that generate more false positives than real alerts? Let NetSparker show you how you can save time and money and improve security with their automated solution. How many sites do you visit and therefore scan that are password protected? With most other security products, you've got to record a login macro, but not with NetSparker. Just specify the username, the password, and the URL of the login page, and the scanner will figure out everything else. Visit netsparker.com to learn more. And if you want to try it for yourself, you can do that too. Go to netsparker.com/cyberwire for a free 30-day fully functional trial version of NetSparker Desktop. Scan your websites and let NetSparker show you how easy they make it. netsparker.com/cyberwire. And we thank NetSparker for sponsoring our show. I'm Dave Bittner in Baltimore with your CyberWire summary for Thursday, December 8th, 2016. ThyssenKrupp discloses that it lost steel production intellectual property to a cyber attack early this year. The IP theft is said to have been discovered in April. The culprits are unknown, but some reports suggest that they were based in Southeast Asia. ThyssenKrupp has filed a criminal complaint, and an investigation is well underway. According to security company Forcepoint, a distributed denial-of-service attack, Sledgehammer, originated in Turkey and is affecting organizations the attackers evidently regard as unsympathetic to Turkish government policy. This appears to be a patriotic hacktivist operation, but one never really knows what degree of organized criminality or state-directed is at work in cases like this. The victims include political parties like the ruling center-right German Christian Democratic Party, the CDU, opposition and dissident parties in Turkey, such as the People's Democratic Party of Turkey and the Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK, and that perennial burr under the Turkish government's saddle of Amor Propra, anything devoted to memorializing the World War I-era massacres in Armenia, like the Armenian Genocide Archive. The Sledgehammer campaign is unusual, Forcepoint says, in the way it's gamified DDoS. The hackers run a DDoS collaboration platform called Surface Defense. Our linguistics staff warns us against attempting to pronounce the original Turkish, so we won't. Anyone who signs up for the platform is asked to attack a specific set of political targets, and in return they earn points they can trade in for rewards, like their own copy of the DDoS tool or a swell click fraud bot. It's as if the cyber underground has discovered the marketing value of giving away green stamps, or a set of steak knives, or some other promotional goodies. Play with caution if play you must. Of course, we say, don't play. Not only would it be wrong and you'd be a bad person, but Surface Defense will also surreptitiously backdoor your own system to turn it to Sledgehammer's own ends. There's no more a free lunch than there is honor among bot masters. Cisco's Talos Group and Flashpoint together report on Floki Bot, essentially an evolved Zeus Trojan. It's for sale in dark web markets, and poses a threat to point-of-sale systems as well as banks and insurance companies. It's more evasive than its Zeus ancestors, and it's also active across 3 language communities: Portuguese in Brazil, English, and Russian. Floki Bot is widely available on the black market, where it sells for just $1,000. This is discount attack code. Its famous Game Over Zeus predecessor was sold only inside restricted groups, and in its prime fetched $15,000. The banking Trojan Dridex is back and circulating among Scottish systems. The most recent come-on, Fujitsu CTI reports, is an email purporting to be from and for Scottish football supporters. That's soccer fans for our American listeners. The email, of course, carries a malicious payload. Ransomware continues to be a threat, and one strain widely available is known as Stampado. Deepen Desai is Director of Security Research at ZScaler, and he brings us up to date on Stampado.
So Stampado is yet another ransomware strain. There have been more than a dozen ransomware strains in 2016. The strain has been around since July of 2016. That's when we first saw it being advertised on the underground forum by the author. The author goes by the moniker The Rainmaker, and he was offering a full lifetime support for just $39. Some of the unique things about the payload, it is written in AutoIT, which is a scripting language. So it was pretty easy for us to reverse engineer. The second thing, it has capabilities to encrypt more than 1,200 different file types. This was pretty unique because they were also targeting files that were already encrypted by other popular ransomwares like Cerber, Floki, some of the prevalent ransomware variants out there right now. So what essentially they're doing is they're double dipping on systems with weak security posture, and the end user will end up paying double ransom, right, for each of those infections in order to retrieve their file. The other interesting feature we saw in this variant was it had features to spread. So from the infected system, if there are shared network drives or there are connected removable drives, that's where it will make a copy of itself. And the way it copies itself is it will look for existing files and hide those existing files and rename all the existing files, and then it will make a copy of itself using the same icons as the original files. And those are essentially shortcut files which point to the Stampado binary, which is also copied on the removable drive. So it had the ability to spread over the network as well as through the removable drives to different users.
And if the user pays the ransom, will they get their files back?
If the user pays ransom, yes, they will get a decryptor from the author, but in this case, it is fairly easy for the user to retrieve the files through one of the publicly available tools as well. Amisoft has published a tool. Also, we are planning to push out a tool as well, which will be able to generate the decryptor using the binary itself. Because it's not a public-private key-based encryption, asymmetric encryption in other words, it is possible to retrieve your file, so we would recommend not paying any kind of ransom.
That's Deepen Desai from ZScaler. They have more information about the Stampado ransomware on their website. An upgrade to the Global Positioning System, GPS, provides a timely reminder of the way in which cyberspace is important to operating in outer space. Lockheed Martin has completed what it describes as a major upgrade to the ground stations that control the orbiting constellation of GPS satellites. Prominent in that upgrade is a set of measures put in place to improve the cybersecurity of GPS. Other upgrades include a beta release of AirDroid that addresses vulnerabilities discovered by Zimperium and Locus Energy's patch of issues in its solar power home electrical meters. Here's something that won't be patched: Windows XP, which reached the end of its support life back in April of 2014. Yet a study just released shows that 9 out of 10 National Health Service trusts in the UK are still using Windows XP. U.S. congressional Democrats and others continue to advocate bipartisan investigation of Russian attempts to interfere with recent U.S. elections. And finally, competition for cyber labor remains intense. The Daily Caller rather breathlessly says that the private market is demolishing America's premier spying agency, by which they mean NSA. Sorry, CIA, and DIA, NRO, and GA, for that matter. Former Director NSA Keith Alexander told a conference at the University of Maryland that the problem was the government's inability to compete with private industry on pay and low morale brought on by what he characterized as negative and unfair media coverage of the agency. Some signs of that competition may be seen in a job opening at Facebook, which is looking for an offensive security engineer. We read that as a honcho kind of call for a vulnerability researcher or penetration tester. But the Register has a different take on it. Their headline in Dec suggests that Facebook's looking for a sysadmin who will tell help desk callers, "Here's your new password, champ. Now go yourself." Well, we're a family show. But we really don't think the House of Zuckerberg is looking for someone who would recommend monogenesis. On the other hand, if they are, we hear Tay might be available. Time to take a moment to tell you about our sponsor, Recorded Future, the real-time threat intelligence company. Recorded Future's patented technology continuously analyzes the entire web to give cybersecurity analysts unmatched insights into emerging threats. We read their dailies at the CyberWire, and you can too. Sign up for Recorded Future's Cyber Daily email to get the top trending technical indicators crossing the web. Cyber news, targeted industries, threat actors, exploited vulnerabilities, malware, and suspicious IP addresses. Subscribe today and stay ahead of the cyber attacks. They watch the web so you have time to think and make the best decisions possible for your enterprise's security. Go to recordedfuture.com/intel to subscribe for free threat intelligence updates from Recorded Future. It's timely, it's solid, it's on the money. That's recordedfuture.com/intel. And we thank Recorded Future for sponsoring our show. Joining me once again is Joe Carrigan. He's from the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute. Joe, you recently attended the Grace Hopper Conference. So give us some background here. What is the Grace Hopper Conference, and what were you doing there?
It's the Grace Hopper Celebration of Women in Computing. It's a gathering of about 12,000 women from all over the world who come to, in this time, Houston, Texas. Mm-hmm. And I was there primarily representing the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute, trying to recruit women into our program, our cybersecurity program. There are a lot of undergraduate women at this conference. In fact, next year I'd like to have my daughter go. She's a computer engineering major right now. Nice. It would be great to have her go there to network and to meet other women in computing.
We have conferences like this. We have the Grace Hopper Celebration. I'm familiar with the Women in Cybersecurity.
Women in Cybersecurity is coming up in April, right?
Yes, and I think last day of March, first day of April.
Last day of March, first day of April.
You and I were there, both there last year for that conference. Is another one that's good.
And that's also a great conference for women to meet and network.
I think we have this issue in the field, certainly within cybersecurity, but I think in tech in general, of women being underrepresented. We're not getting enough women into the field, and when we get them in, they're not staying.
Right. We have, back in the 80s, before the dawn of the personal computer, you and I were discussing this earlier, that women represented a much higher share of computer science graduates. The statistics I've heard are around 30%, and now it's down around 12%. So it's moved in the wrong direction, actually.
So I think, the bottom line is, I think those of us who think this is important, that this type of, that the diversity of both with women and minorities, I think there's a real truth here that when you have a diversity of thought, that leads to better solutions and better answers. And I think those of us who believe that, who are behind that notion, we have a role to play of supporting these types of conferences, these types of efforts.
We do, absolutely. My opinion and my observations are that the steering of people towards these fields, it happens very early in life. It happens very early where these people start having the inclination towards engineering.
So having those opportunities even as a child.
Even as a child, getting the right toys, making sure that your kid, whether they're a boy or a girl, has Legos to play with, just things they can get the spatial relationships up. Give them toys that teach programming, if you will. We got our kids Mindstorms. Now, that being said, I pushed both my kids towards the engineering field, and my son just has no desire to pursue it. He is completely uninterested, but he is very much interested in the field of business and accounting, and that's where he's decided he's going to go. But my daughter has taken to it and taken to it very well.
Right. All right, Joe Carrigan, good talking to you.
My pleasure.
And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, along with interviews, our glossary, and more, visit thecyberwire.com. Thanks to all of our sponsors who make the CyberWire possible. And if you consider the CyberWire podcast a valuable part of your day, we hope you'll take the time to write a review on iTunes. It really does help people find the show. The CyberWire podcast is produced by Pratt Street Media. The editor is John Petrick. Our social media editor is Jennifer Iben, and our technical editor is Chris Russell. Our executive editor is Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening.